So, when you think about youth volleyball, what comes to mind? Probably serve, spikes, maybe some crazy digs, right? Well, what if I told you it's about so much more than that? Today, we're going to break down a blueprint that shows how this sport is, well, it's a powerful tool for building not just great players, but truly great people.
All right, let's kick things off with this quote from the legend himself, Marv Dunphy. He gets it. Intuition, imagination, improvisation, but most of all, of reciprocity, of teamwork. I mean, come on, he's saying that volleyball isn't a sport where one superstar can just take over. Nope, it's all about constant collaboration. Every single player has to rely on the others. You can't just go off on your own. And that idea, that core of teamwork, that's the foundation for everything we're going to talk about. And what you're going to see here is a framework we've put together drawing from the best of the best. We're talking USA Volleyball, Volleyball Canada, some of the top coaches in the game. Think of this as a guide, really, for any coach or parent out there. We're going to focus on those simple but really profound life lessons that the game can teach. So, the big question is, how do we actually build a complete player? Well, Volleyball Canada has this brilliant model called the development matrix. And here's the key. It's not just about what happens on the court. It's about focusing on three totally interconnected pillars. And they are the person, the athlete, and the player. Okay, pillar number one, the person. And honestly, this is the most important one. I mean, before you even have an athlete, you have a human being, right? A kid with fundamental needs. We're talking about creating an environment where they feel safe, psychologically and emotionally, where they feel like they belong, and where their self-esteem can grow. This right here is the bedrock. Everything else gets built on top of this. Next up, we've got the athlete. This is all about their physical development, and the development matrix breaks it down into 4 key areas. You've got speed, strength, suppleness, which is really just a great word for flexibility, and stamina. This is the physical foundation. It's like building the engine that's going to power their movements on the court. And not just for volleyball, by the way, but for pretty much any sport they decide to play down the road. And then, finally, we get to the player. Now, this is where all the volleyball-specific stuff comes in. You know, seeing the game, reading the play, seeking solutions, which is all about making smart decisions, and of course, mastering the actual skills and understanding team systems. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. You can't get to this pillar without a solid foundation in the first 2. And this is so important. When we coaches only focus on the player part, we end up creating these brittle athletes. They're the ones who burn out or just crumble under pressure because their basic needs as a person and an athlete were totally ignored. Okay, so we have this awesome 3-pillar model. It sounds great on paper, right? But who actually brings it to life? Well, that's a coach. The coach is the true architect of the entire youth sports experience. And I absolutely love this perspective from Coach Mark Pavlik. He says, I am in the middle of this storm, and that is where the calm is supposed to be. Wow. The coach isn't a dictator barking orders. They're a facilitator. They're that calm center that helps all the individual pieces, all the players fit together and work as one. It's a huge shift from that old-school authoritarian style to something much more collaborative. Now, check this out. This is a concept from USA Volleyball that is a total game changer. It's called feed forward. So you know how we're all used to feedback, right? It usually points out past errors, what you did wrong. Well, feed forward flips that on its head. It's all about inspiring future success. The coach's job isn't to dwell on what went wrong, but to focus on what to do next. It's way more positive, it's collaborative, and you know what? It's just so much more effective for learning. And building right on top of that idea, let's talk about positive communication, because it is absolutely key. And get this, more than half of all communication is nonverbal. Your body language, your posture, it all speaks volumes. And when you do use your words, use that negative criticism really sparingly. If you're constantly jumping on a player for an honest mistake, you know what happens? They become afraid to even try. The goal is to create an environment where failure isn't something to be afraid of. It's just a normal, necessary part of learning. And let's wrap up this section with a little wisdom from one of the greatest to ever play the game, Karch Kiraly. And this is such a smart, nuanced point. He says everyone doesn't get treated the same way, but everyone has to be treated fairly. Think about that. Treating everyone the exact same way just isn't realistic because every player is different. The real goal is fairness, understanding their individual needs and coaching the person, not just the jersey number. Okay, so we've established that a great coach builds the whole person and communicates really well. But how does that philosophy actually translate to what we do on the court? How do kids actually learn this game? Let's get into it.
And, spoiler alert, it's not by having them stand in long, boring lines. So take a look at this. We're seeing the fundamentals of a block, right? The ready position, the extension, the landing. And yeah, you could spend hours and hours drilling just this one motion over and over again. But here's the question. Is that really the best way for a player to learn when and how to block in a real live game?
Well, here comes that aha moment, and it's from Marv Dunphy again. He says, the best passing drill is pass set hit. The best setting drill is pass set hit. The best hitting drill is pass set hit. You see the pattern? His point is that the best way to learn any skill is within a game-like context. A pass is never just a pass in a game, right? It's the first part of a sequence. By training these skills together, how they actually happen in Rally, players learn the most important skill of all, how to read the game.
And this table does a great job of showing the long-term view. If you look at Canada's athlete development model, you can see how the balance between practice and competition changes over time. For the youngest players in that fundamental stage, look at that. 70% of their time should be practice and just playing, with only 30% in formal competition. The focus is on development and having fun, not on winning at all costs. That balance only starts to shift as the athletes get older and decide they want to pursue a more high-performance path. And really, this ancient proverb, which you'll find in the USA volleyball manuals, just sums it all up perfectly. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember, I do and I understand. Kids don't learn by listening to a coach lecture for 20 minutes. They learn by doing. So our job as coaches is to create these fun, game-like drills that let them play, let them experiment, and let them actually understand the real flow of volleyball. All right, let's bring this all home. When you step back and look at the big picture, what is the real goal of youth sports? I mean, really. It's not the trophy cabinet, it's the character, the resilience, and that lifelong love for being active that we're trying to build. Karch Kiraly puts it so powerfully here. He reminds us that we are all going to fall short. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's a critical part of it. Look, any youth sports experience that tries to shield kids from failure is actually doing them a huge disservice. The deeper win, the real win, comes from teaching them how to handle a loss, learn from it, and use that experience to come back even stronger, not just on the court, but in life. So what's truer than truth? The story. Think about that for a second. The stats, the final scores, the win-loss record, those are just facts. And honestly, they'll fade over time. What really, truly lasts is the story. So as a coach, as a parent, you have to ask yourself, what story are you helping these young athletes write for themselves? Is it a story about pressure and the fear of making a mistake? Or is it a story about courage, teamwork, and joy? That's the real blueprint.